With so many games coming out, it's easy to spend money on the wrong ones. Some games are great, while others are not worth it. So, here are 20 games that are seriously worth your money. The Last of Us Part 1 is one of the best games ever made, and it's something every gamer should play at least once. The story follows Joel, a hardened survivor living in a world destroyed by a deadly infection. His job is simple at first: escort a young girl named Ellie across the country. But the journey slowly turns into something far more personal. Gameplay focuses heavily on survival. Ammo is limited, enemies are dangerous, and every encounter forces you to think carefully before making a move. Stealth often becomes the smartest option, especially when dealing with infected creatures like clickers that can kill you instantly if you make a mistake. But what truly makes the game stand out is the relationship between Joel and Ellie. Watching how their bond slowly grows during the journey is what makes the story stick with players long after it ends.
Play out. You do what I say, when I say it.
Joel, I can handle myself.
It's called luck, and it is gonna run out.
You hear that? Run! There's too many of them!
You ready to haul ass? Come on. Do you even realize what your life means?
A ritual so forbidden that speaking of it is taboo. And a place that must never be seen. If I could capture it with a camera obscura.
Hurry, leave the village. If you can get out of the village, you'll be able to escape your fate.
Don't let go. Together.
The twins, where are they?
Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake is a game that recently came out and brings back one of the scariest Japanese horror games ever made. You play as Mio and Mayu, who accidentally wander into an abandoned village called Minakami. What looks like a quiet place quickly turns into a nightmare as they realize the village is filled with restless spirits and a dark ritual from the past. What makes this series different from most horror games is the weapon you use. Instead of guns, the only way to fight ghosts is with the camera obscura, a special camera that can capture and damage spirits. The closer the ghost gets when you take the photo, the stronger the attack becomes, which creates very tense moments during encounters. The remake also updates the original game with modern graphics, improved controls, and new camera mechanics like zoom and focus to make battles against spirits more strategic.
Say he is a storm made flesh. When the wind thrashes their tents and boats, they know he is coming.
Ghost of Tsushima. And honestly, you probably can't call yourself a gamer if you've never heard of this one, because it's one of the best samurai adventures in modern gaming. Published by Sony Interactive Entertainment, the game turned into a huge success and has sold more than 13 million copies worldwide. The story takes place during the Mongol invasion of Japan in 1274. You follow Jin Sakai, one of the last surviving samurai on Tsushima Island, who must adapt and change his fighting style to protect his home. Gameplay gives you two different ways to approach combat. You can face enemies head-on in intense samurai duels, or move quietly through the shadows using stealth, distractions, and surprise attacks. Different combat stances also help you counter specific enemy types, which keeps fights strategic and satisfying. Resident Evil Requiem is a game fans have been waiting for years. And a big reason is the return of Leon S. Kennedy, one of the most iconic characters in the series. The game is also extremely popular right now. At the time this video was made, almost every streamer I know was playing it. The story introduces a new character named Grace Ashcroft, an FBI analyst investigating a series of strange deaths connected to a new outbreak. Her investigation slowly leads back to the ruins of Raccoon City, where the disaster from the original Resident Evil games began. Gameplay mixes survival horror with action, depending on which character you're playing. Grace's sections focus more on tension and limited resources, while Leon's parts feel more aggressive, letting you fight enemies with a wider range of weapons.
Why me?
The team has settled on a person of interest. A former T-virus researcher.
Because my master made you who you are.
Raccoon City was where it all began for me.
I'm coming with you.
We can talk. What do you want to know?
I don't want any more regrets. Whatever.
Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is one of those action games that really tests your skill, and honestly, this is probably the hardest game I've ever played. You play as Wolf, a shinobi whose mission is to protect a young lord with a mysterious power. After losing your master during a brutal attack, you begin a dangerous journey across war-torn Japan to rescue him. What makes the gameplay stand out is the posture combat system. Instead of just draining an enemy's health, the goal is to break their posture by attacking, blocking, and perfectly deflecting their strikes. Once their posture breaks, you can finish them with a powerful death blow. Because of that system, fights feel like intense sword duels where timing and patience matter a lot. The game also adds stealth mechanics and a grappling hook, letting you move quickly across rooftops and attack enemies from unexpected angles.
The wolf is assigned to protect a new master known as the Divine Heir.
You will pledge your life in my service.
As you command.
The boy is the descendant of a mysterious bloodline, making him the target of the Ashina clan.
Leave this to me. So the noble shinobi stands in our way.
You must never forget the shinobi code. If your master is taken, bring him back at any cost.
What is...
The Mortuary Assistant is a horror game that is extremely scary and full of unexpected jump scares. Instead of running around fighting monsters, the game puts you in a much more unsettling situation. You're working the night shift at a mortuary, preparing bodies for burial while strange supernatural things begin happening around you. Gameplay mixes realistic mortuary tasks with psychological horror. While doing your job, you also have to look for clues, figure out which body is possessed, and perform the right ritual before the demon fully takes over. You play as Rebecca Owens, a new mortuary assistant learning how to embalm bodies. At first, your job seems simple. Examine the body, complete the embalming process, and finish your shift. Because the events change every time you play, you never know when the next scare is coming, which keeps the tension high the entire night.
God killer. What is it you want from me? Is it a god of war you came to find?
You don't really want war, do you, Kratos? All that blood on your hands, on your son's hands.
What is it you will not tell me?
I can't talk about it, but I just need you to trust me.
We follow your every whim.
But you don't believe in any of it.
And still I follow. Because all that matters is that you are safe.
God of War is easily one of the most memorable action games ever made. This time, the story follows Kratos, who now lives in the world of Norse mythology with his son, Atreus. After the death of Atreus' mother, the two begin a journey to spread her ashes from the highest peak in the realms, but the path quickly turns into something much bigger. Combat also feels very different from the older God of War games. Kratos now uses the Leviathan axe, which can be thrown at enemies and recalled back to your hand. Battles focus more on timing, positioning, and using different abilities rather than just button mashing. One thing that makes this game stand out is the relationship between Kratos and Atreus. Instead of just focusing on action, the game spends a lot of time building their father and son bond as they travel across dangerous lands filled with gods and monsters.
An orphan. Caution advised. Something is here.
Cronos The New Dawn is a survival horror game that mixes sci-fi ideas with classic horror gameplay. And yeah, it immediately reminds a lot of players of something like Dead Space. The story takes place in a dark future after a mysterious catastrophe known as the Change. After this event, much of humanity has turned into terrifying creatures. You play as a character known as the Traveler, an agent sent into dangerous zones to extract what the game calls the essence of people from the past and bring it back to the future. But these areas are filled with mutated monsters called orphans, and surviving against them is never simple. Combat is built around careful survival. You'll use firearms and melee weapons, but one mechanic makes every encounter much more intense. If you don't burn enemies quickly, they can merge with the bodies of other monsters and become even stronger.
Well, a lowly tarnished, playing as a lord. I command thee now!
Elden Ring is an open-world Souls-like game with a massive world full of danger, mystery, and powerful enemies waiting around almost every corner. The story takes place in a land called the Lands Between, where the Elden Ring has been shattered and powerful demigods now fight over its fragments. One thing that really sets the game apart is the freedom it gives the player. Instead of pushing you through a fixed path, the world is completely open. If one enemy feels too difficult, you can simply explore somewhere else, discover new areas, level up, and come back stronger. Combat follows the challenging style From Software is known for. Every enemy can be dangerous if you're careless, so timing, stamina management, and learning attack patterns become the key to survival. You can also build your character in many different ways, using swords, magic, heavy weapons, or hybrid playstyles. Alan Wake 2 is a horror game that mixes psychological horror with a detective-style story. You follow two characters, Alan Wake, a writer trapped in a nightmare-like dimension for years, and Saga Anderson, an FBI agent investigating a series of ritual murders in a small town called Bright Falls. Gameplay switches between the two characters, and each one feels different. Saga's sections focus more on investigation and survival horror. You collect clues, study evidence on a caseboard, and try to figure out what's really happening. Alan's part is more surreal, where he tries to rewrite reality inside the dark place to escape. Combat is slower and more tense than the first game. You use a flashlight to weaken enemies made of darkness before finishing them with weapons, so every encounter feels dangerous and requires careful timing.
Horror story. The horror story wanted us dead. There's something I'm forgetting. Something important. Something's not right!
Easy now. First things first. What's your name?
Persona 5 Royal is one of those RPGs that people keep recommending for a reason. The story follows a high school student who ends up forming a group called the Phantom Thieves, secretly entering a strange world inside people's minds to make corrupt adults face the truth. What makes the experience so engaging is how the game constantly switches between two lives. During the day, you're living a normal school life in Tokyo, building friendships and managing your time. But when the mission begins, you're sneaking through huge palaces filled with enemies, traps, and hidden routes. Combat is turn-based but feels quick and satisfying. Finding enemy weaknesses gives your team extra turns, and you can recruit new personas from defeated enemies to create stronger abilities. Because of its long story, stylish presentation, and systems that keep evolving as you play, Persona 5 Royal is the kind of game that once you start, it's very hard to put down.
In the near future, there is no mistake that ruin awaits you. Do you have the resolve to challenge the distortion of the world?
I don't think it's wrong to bring light to evils which can't be judged by law.
We can change people's hearts. We might be able to do more than just getting back at society.
I will not lose heart again. Ever.
Please don't forget the promise we made, okay?
The gun to their head.
You can't just kill someone because the way they looked at you.
You should see your face, too.
Let go!
I'm sorry, Laura, but I can't let you just run around this place. You might get hurt.
Hurt by what?
This place is different from what I remember. I don't think she's here anymore.
Silent Hill 2 Remake is the kind of horror experience that people still talk about years after finishing it. The story follows James Sunderland, a man who returns to the fog-covered town of Silent Hill after receiving a letter from his wife, even though she passed away years ago. One of the biggest changes in the remake is the camera. Instead of the old fixed angles, the game now uses an over-the-shoulder view, putting you much closer to what James sees while exploring the town and its dark buildings. Combat has also been modernized. You can aim more precisely, dodge enemy attacks, and use weapons like the steel pipe or handgun in a more responsive way. Even with these improvements, encounters still feel risky because resources are limited and enemies can be unpredictable. With its psychological story, heavy atmosphere, and modern gameplay improvements, Silent Hill 2 Remake shows why this classic horror game continues to stand out even for today's players. Where Winds Meet is the kind of game that immediately stands out because of its setting and scale. The story takes place in ancient China, during a chaotic period of history, where a wandering swordsman travels across the land trying to uncover the truth about his past. What makes the experience interesting is how much freedom the game gives you. The world is huge, filled with towns, forests, mountains, and people going about their lives. Instead of following a straight path, you can explore different regions, meet characters, and shape your own journey. Combat leans heavily into wuxia-style martial arts. That means fast sword fights, special abilities, and techniques inspired by classic martial arts stories. Movement also plays a big role, letting you dash, counterattacks, and chain skills together during battles. With its massive world and stylish combat, this is the kind of adventure that easily pulls players in and keeps them exploring for hours. Resident Evil 7 marked a big shift for the series by returning to pure survival horror. The story follows Ethan Winters, an ordinary man searching for his missing wife in a rundown house deep in Louisiana. One of the biggest changes is the first-person perspective. Seeing everything through Ethan's eyes makes the house feel much more claustrophobic. Every hallway feels tight, every noise sounds suspicious, and you're never fully sure what's waiting behind the next door. Gameplay focuses heavily on survival. Ammo is limited, healing items are valuable, and every encounter forces you to think carefully before acting. You're constantly searching rooms, solving puzzles, and unlocking new areas while trying to stay alive. Between the unsettling atmosphere, the creepy Baker family, and the constant tension inside that house, Resident Evil 7 delivers a horror experience that's hard to forget. Monster Hunter Stories 3, Twisted Reflection, takes the Monster Hunter universe in a very different direction. Instead of hunting monsters like the main series, this game focuses on riders who build bonds with monsters and fight alongside them. Gameplay leans into turn-based RPG combat, but it still keeps that Monster Hunter strategy. Battles are built around reading enemy patterns and choosing the right attack type at the right moment. As you progress, you can hatch new monsters, train them, and bring them into battle as your companions. Exploration also plays a big role. Different monsters let you reach new places in the world, like climbing cliffs, crossing large areas faster, or discovering hidden paths you couldn't access before. With its mix of monster collecting, story-driven adventure, and strategic battles, Monster Hunter Stories 3 offers a fresh way to experience the Monster Hunter world.
Two kingdoms to the brink of war.
And you are the sole Rathalos rider in Azuria.
My people have been driven into a corner, and the point of no return is looming before us.
Can't afford not to go. I cross the meridian, keep going. Ratha! But it won't be for long.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth continues the journey of Cloud and his group after leaving Midgar, as they travel across the world chasing Sephiroth and trying to stop the growing threat around the planet. One thing that really stands out is how open the world feels. Instead of being limited to one area, you're traveling through large regions, riding chocobos, discovering hidden locations, and running into side activities almost everywhere you go. Combat keeps the mix of action and strategy from the previous game. You control characters directly in real time, switch between teammates during fights, and build up abilities to unleash powerful attacks. Team synergy skills also let characters combine moves for stronger results. Because of its huge world, strong story moments, and combat that stays exciting the entire time, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth easily becomes one of those games players keep recommending to others.
Been to this place.
The world's ending. That's what everyone's saying.
Aerith!
Cloud! Now!
Cloud!
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 She needs you. Go.
I'm using it. You know I won't. Here we go.
Dragon Quest VII Reimagined brings back one of the biggest adventures in the Dragon Quest series, but now with a modern look and smoother gameplay. The game keeps the classic turn-based combat the series is known for, but adds improvements that make battles feel faster and more flexible. Characters can switch between different vocations, which lets them learn new abilities and build unique combinations for combat. Exploration is also a big part of the experience. Each island has its own story, characters, and problems to solve, so the adventure constantly feels like you're discovering something new as the world gradually comes back to life. With its huge journey, charming world, and classic RPG systems that still feel satisfying today, Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is the kind of game that JRPG fans will easily sink hours into.
This is the stuff! You and me battling side by side again. Flame Splitter!
The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, takes Link's adventure to a much bigger scale. Hyrule is still there, but now the world stretches far beyond the ground, with floating islands in the sky and new areas hidden across the land. What makes this game so interesting is how creative the gameplay becomes. New abilities let you attach objects together, build vehicles, and even create completely improvised tools to solve problems. Sometimes the solution isn't obvious, and that's where the fun begins. Exploration feels more rewarding because the game constantly encourages experimentation. You might build a machine to cross a river, launch yourself into the sky, or discover hidden caves that lead to unexpected places. It's the kind of adventure where players often come up with their own solutions, which is exactly why people keep sharing their wild gameplay moments online. Baldur's Gate 3 is the kind of RPG that gives players an incredible amount of freedom from the very beginning. The story starts after your character becomes infected by a strange parasite that slowly threatens to turn you into a mind flayer. As you search for a cure, you get pulled into a much bigger conflict involving powerful factions across the Forgotten Realms. One thing that really sets the game apart is how reactive everything feels. Conversations, quests, and even small decisions can change how the story plays out. Combat is turn-based and heavily inspired by the Dungeons & Dragons system. Positioning, abilities, and creative use of the environment all matter. You might push enemies off cliffs, set traps, or combine spells to create unexpected results. Between the deep story, the massive amount of choices, and the strategic combat, this is the kind of RPG where every player's adventure can end up looking completely different. Red Dead Redemption 2 tells the story of Arthur Morgan, an outlaw trying to survive while the Wild West is slowly disappearing. As part of the Vanderlinde gang, Arthur spends his days robbing trains, running from the law, and struggling to hold the group together as things start falling apart. What really makes the game special is how believable the world feels. Towns have people going about their daily routines, wildlife moves naturally through forests and plains, and random encounters can happen almost anywhere while you're riding across the map. Gunfights are intense, But the game also slows things down with activities like hunting, fishing, camping, and interacting with your gang. These moments give the story more weight and make the journey feel personal. By the time the story reaches its final chapters, it's not just about outlaws anymore. It becomes a powerful story about loyalty, regret, and the end of an era.
Just you.
What about loyalty?
Loyal to what matters.
Do as you're goddamn told.
It is us or him!